when you find yourself by yourself and you start asking yourself questions around, is this the life I want to continue to live? Is this all it's supposed to be? Why don't I have more? And you're like, well, duh, I should change. But you can't change. Then let's talk about it. And I want to start with the truest of truths that I can say out of my very limited but well-intended brain, which is change is the most difficult thing you'll ever do in your life. And the further you are in your life, if you're like me, 40 plus trips around the sun, then it's only going to be more difficult. And I want to start at the baseline level of why change is so hard, and then get into some talk around how you could possibly go through an evolution and progress forward in some direction, which any step forward to me is a step in the right direction. Let's talk about the fundamental difficulty we have with change. And yes, life is hard. At our core, mentally, physically, I'm talking about how we're designed as humans. Our instinct, what we're designed to do fundamentally, is survive. And in order to survive, we have to meet certain criteria for ourselves. Safety, food, shelter, and a little bit of love in both directions. When we have those things and we achieve that baseline level, and we're not, and none of that is threatened for us, then we are comfortable in our survival mode, and we've attained what we need to attain to keep ourselves existing. And if you want some reference, Maslow's hierarchy of needs would be a place you can start, and it's this pyramid of what you need at the most fundamental of levels before you achieve self-actualization, which is the ultimate version of you. Well, let's not deviate. Survival and why it's important. Come to the realization that what you are today, you're addicted to. Full stop, period. And you may not realize that, want to hear it, or have come to that conclusion. But if you stop first and baseline with yourself, why can't I change? Why can't I move forward? Why can't I evolve? It's because you're addicted to all of your current habits and routines. From morning to when you sleep. You're going through it every single day. And that's life, Jeff, yes. But let me relate it to something culturally about, something that we likely share at some point in our lives, and statistically, many people do. Drinking, alcohol, right? If you've ever, like me, I drank for 20 years. I was really good at it. And I don't, I say it with a smile, and I can say that respectfully and pridefully because it took a lot for me to overcome that. But I'm going to relate it to the entirety of your existence. But how does alcoholism occur? It starts with one drink. It always starts with one drink. And the first drink you have gives you a great feeling. If you've ever had a drink, or maybe you smoked, or maybe you've done something that alters your mind state, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And the first one gives us such a great feeling that we continue to chase that feeling over and over and over. And every time we reach that feeling, it takes a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more to get there. Ultimately, till we get to the point where if you were like me, you were going through bottles weekly, right? Bottles, plural. And I was a rum and bourbon drinker. And that is, again, you've reached a level where you feel good. It takes a little longer to get there, so you feed the addiction more and more and more and more and more and more and more. Take that concept and apply it to every single thing you do in your life. From the minute you wake up again to when you go to sleep. So I wake up, how are you feeling? Are you in a rush? I get to hungover. Because if you were like me, you were hungover. But what is your mindset the minute you wake up? Because your mindset, what you feel, those are chemicals. If you've ever heard of dopamine or cortisol or anything that produces a mood, an emotion, a feeling, it's just like alcohol. when you wake up and feel a way, you're sending signals throughout your body, almost like you took a shot of whatever mood that you're in. Happy, sad, right, wrong, and different. And so if you stop and think baseline, how long have you been waking up feeling the way that you're feeling when you wake up? And then expand that out. Do it over the course of a full day. And you get to how you've come to being addicted to your current routine. And any deviation from that is like putting the bottle down. And if you've ever quit anything in your life, then you know how difficult that can be, because it starts with hangovers. That's where I wanted to go. And so the very first thing you'll realize is this: I am addicted to my current being. It gets me through the day and I survive. All my basic needs are met. And so anything that you do to deviate feels like a withdrawal. Think about it. That if I don't wake up feeling how I always feel when I wake up, albeit there's some slight, very minimal, sometimes you just, oh man, I had a great night. You had so it leads to a great day, or maybe you're going on a trip, or maybe something, is like a broke clock. Twice a day, or every now and again, you get a different rush and stimulant, and it feels good in a very short burst. That's why I talk regularly, and that's why people focus on instant gratification. But anyhow, if you try to remove any of your current habits or routines in your life, it will feel like withdrawal. It'll be really, 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 really emotionally painful. Why? Because you're a threat. You're threatened by the change. So when they talk about change is hard because change is painful, change is difficult, you gotta do it even when you don't want to do it. Why? Because chemically, your body is shooting you all the bourbon and rum and Cosmos and whatever it is that makes you feel good is shooting signals to you to say, yo, what are you doing? Why are you doing this to us? Whether or not you like it, we accept that we are where we are. And any change, again, is a threat. It feels very, very difficult. So you possibly go through a hangover phase. And we know that sucks. And the best cure for a hangover is what? Another drink. And that's ultimately when you're addicted to your life and you try to make a change. You don't drink for a day or two. Your body wants to send you, and your mind wants to send you right back to, wait, this is what makes us feel good. Even if unhappiness makes you feel good. Start to expand that out and think. Baseline level set. What do you do today? Accept that you're addicted, and any change because of that, that is fundamentally what makes it hard. Let me relate it biblically. I think that's the right way to say it. The Bible. I'm big into it. It's something I read every day, and I have been for the entirety of the year. So one of the commitments I made was to finish it for the year. One of the most familiar stories, as I also research people who research the Bible, because I think it's important to get other perspective. Otherwise, I drive myself crazy. Exodus is a monstrous turn of events in the Bible, and it happens very, very early. And if you didn't know, Exodus reveals the story of Moses. And Moses is responsible for freeing the Israelites. And the Israelites are the people of God, the direct people of God. And these direct people of God have been in slavery for 400 plus years. So generation after generation after generation after generation. All they've been exposed to, all they see, all they've been drinking is slavery over and over and over. So what happens? They accept, they don't revolt, they don't try to break free, they don't do nothing, but repeat the process of slavery for 400 years. Think about that. I'm not saying you're a slave today by those standards or definitions, but if you can't break free, you're certainly enslaved by your mind. That's where I'm going. So I'll continue on the story of Exodus. I'm getting excited. Woo! Moses gets a word from God. I am who I am, and I am sending you to free my people. And Moses is all kinds of insecure around what? Me? Why? And the depth that which Moses has to go to to be able to have the fortitude and the strength to come to the conclusion that he has been chosen is a separate story. But he accepts this task. And he decides, I'm going to do what God told me to do, probably a wise decision, and I'm going to go free the slaves. Where am I going and what's the point? God, in order to free the slaves, sends, I think it's like 10 different plagues to the Pharaoh of Egypt. And the significance of this is this. He does everything from turn the Nile into blood, which is important because that's the water supply, to sending frogs to overthrow the land, to having the people in darkness for like 3 days. And these are all significant because the Egyptians worship these types of gods, right? And so God shows dominance over other gods. All the way to the point of God takes the firstborn as the final plague, the firstborn of everyone in the land of Egypt. So think about the severity of these things. And I liken it to the ability for God to prove himself, to say, you're thinking, why would God have to prove himself? Well, people were enslaved for 400 years. So they have to see these level of miracles to first believe. Am I saying you need that level of miracle? You might need to talk to God or listen because God is talking to you. But again, a conversation for another day. You're here because you know you want to change. You want to change and you're having difficulty. So the first thing is you need a little bit of a miracle and a sign. Go do it. Boom. So now the people see these things, these wide-ranging miracles, which, again, think about the brevity of this. It's deep. And it aligns them to believe that Moses is the one, because Moses is the one executing these tasks with his staff. He's pointing the staff, and everything's changing, right? And God is releasing his plagues. He gets the Pharaoh, he being God and Moses, to eventually release the people. So now 400 years of slavery, generations, they're finally set free. And what do you think happens initially? Like with any change, oh my God, this is amazing. We're free. Thank you, God. I finally see that I can do something different and better and be great. I don't have to be enslaved. And the journey to freedom takes them through the wilderness, takes them through the desert, takes them through some trials and tribulations. And here's what I want to get to as far as how deep this is and the addiction to the enslavement of who you are today, to your current version and routine, and why it's hard. That after 400 years, and some of these people are older men, women, and have children. So there's a lot of generations spread out age-wise. They go on this journey and they come to the conclusion as they're going through their trials and tribulations and difficulty, many different times along the way, Moses, I'm hungry. And it's not just I'm hungry, it's Moses, I'm hungry, and you freed me, took me away from slavery to starve me in the desert. I'd rather go back to being a slave, because when I was a slave, at least I had food, shelter, and water. How does that blow your mind? That is the depth of how crazy the mind and body works. That we could be so addicted to our routine that God could show us many miracles, send us a prophet, and sure, we got to go down the wilderness and the dark. It's going to be difficult. But as soon as I'm hungry, I'd rather go back to being a slave. Why? Because I was good there at the baseline survival level. Also, what is deeper is that's what you've learned. And that's the biggest thing. Your routine and who you are today is learned. And it's programmed. And anytime you change a program, it's difficult. It's like pouring water on a circuit. It goes a little crazy. So let's stick to the story, because it goes even deeper to me, at least from my perspective, than that. Because eventually, as the people are hungry, Moses, he talks like, God, look, you gotta help me out here. My people need food and they need water and they need the basics. They need to feel good. Cool. He gives them all that. He being God, and he provides the food and he provides the safety. And so their baseline. Okay, we're back to being good. Here's the difficulty with faith and breaking away from who you are. as the evolution of the people continue when they come out of slavery, they're looking to build a nation. Think about how difficult that is, because you today, if you're trying to change, you're trying to change fundamentally who you are and become your own. Let's relate it to a nation. Like you are becoming something you've never been, and you want to be this complete, fulfilled, realized version. Which again, from Maslow's hierarchy of needs goes to self-actualization. That it's bigger than you, and you're a divine someone, right? I want to feel fulfilled and all that greatness. All right. So the people are going through, they're going through the journey, and they're trying to become a nation. So Moses knows, I need some laws. So Moses goes to the top of the mountain in which he met, this is Mount Sinai, to where he met God initially, where God gave him his commands and said, go do this for my people. And so the people see Moses climb this mountain. And Moses goes up into the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. I'm going to emphasize this. 40 days and 40 nights, which is it's not a huge commitment. It's 40 days and 40 nights. In relation to this, the people were enslaved for 400 years. So what's 40 days and 40 nights? The significance of this is this. As Moses is up there, he's writing the 10 commandments. It takes him 40 days and 40 nights to talk to God and write the 10 commandments. Do you know what the people who are down, who follow Moses out, who saw all these great things from God, you know what they're doing? They're breaking like the first commandment, which they don't realize yet, but has to be obvious. Don't worship any other God but me. I am your God, your father. I brought you out of slavery. Don't worship anyone but me. And Moses goes away for 40 days and 40 nights, and the people are already building their version of a god, which he refers to as false idols. They're building some kind of camel, or I forget exactly what it is they're building. But they're building an image of a god, the same way that the Pharaoh and that the Egyptians, they worshipped gods that were animals, and also gods of, like the sun and things like that. So they built up an animal version of God to worship because they were scared. And you're like, well, why? You watch it and you're saying to yourself, I wouldn't do that. What's wrong with them? Yeah, because you're watching knowing what's going to happen already. You're watching knowing that Moses is eventually going to come down. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a story worth telling. But when you're in the moment, and this is the biggest thing, when you're in the moment of change, you could get a message directly from God. He could take all the firstborn right in front of your eyes. And the minute it gets a little bit difficult, or the minute it deviates from what you're already used to, even to the depth of, I'm accustomed to being enslaved, the jeopardy of that absolutely puts you into flux and makes it difficult to find your way out. And so you go back to your default mode. You go back into feeling, doing, and behaving exactly the way you've been feeling, doing, and behaving over and over and over, probably for years. And that is the most difficult thing about change. It's an addiction. You can see a way out, but the path to walk forward puts you at risk for survival, and you don't really want that. You don't really want that. And so here we are. If you're still with me, I want to share that from a relatability perspective. We all have insecurities. And my biggest insecurity is that I am or at least up to this point, I believe, because I'm just not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. And I'm glad I'm recording this, and I'm glad I'll post this, because this helps keep me honest, right? But my biggest insecurity in my life, I think, as I reflect in the moment, one is sometimes the more responsibility I get, although I want the responsibility because I like feeling, it makes me feel good to know, even as fundamentally as father, I have, at one point I worked at a job where I had 300 people reporting to me. I manage $1 million budgets. I'm only sharing this to say, I like all of that. I like the idea that, yes, oh my God, imagine it's got millions of views. I like all the possibilities of success that brings. It attracts me. It feels really, really good. That's why I'm here. And yes, it fulfills me in a way. But I know at my core, it fulfills me in a way because I like the impact it has on people. I like to know that I could say something that could possibly help you. Why? Because maybe it's because at some point in my life, I needed to feel or hear something and I never was told it. I was very much alone in my life. I'm an only child and I'm a loner by nature, ironically, even though I like the stage and I like to be in front of people, etc. But anyway, my biggest insecurity is knowing that I probably have been given a gift and possess some qualities that allow me to scale in a way that by definition now says I can serve people. And I've always been a server. All my jobs in my career, as I reflect to, I'm going somewhat of a tangent, so stay with me. I'm going to get back to my biggest insecurity and why I don't want you to stop. If you're watching this, don't stop. It's that the gifts I've been given are like you. It's possible, but it helps expand me by serving. I've always been in a service-driven mentality and business and line of business and have been successful at it. So that's why I believe I'm here, right? And I feel good about that. I feel great, which is why I'm still going on rambling. But what I've also realized in my life is I've started and stopped. I've started and stopped. I've started and stopped. So what I battle with and what I struggle with every day in my evolution and my change is even as I think about reflecting in the current moment about how this talk might sound, how it might get one view or a gazillion views or no views, is that, man, if you're trying to change and you've ever started and stopped, I've learned that, I'll tell you this way. This was a big moment for me. And maybe I might end with this. I have a son. I have a daughter and a son. I've been married for 15 years. I've been in my relationship for 25 years. And that within itself is, I have so many regrets in that space. And so I don't want to do what I've done before ever again in any way because it hurts and I don't want to do that. I also have a 14-year-old daughter, and an 11-year-old son. And my son and I like to talk at night. He likes to talk at night. And I think he does it to stay up a little bit later. But he looks at me one night, and maybe not so randomly, but very purposefully. And he said, I'm going to ask you a question. And I want you to give me your most honest answer and don't lie. So right away, I'm like, oh, shit, where is he going with this? What is your biggest, he asks me, what is your biggest regret and why? And oh, man, is that a question? Oh, man, is that a question? And if you're a father or if you're a person and you've ever been asked that question by anybody, you want to mask it. I'm scared to tell him what my biggest regret is because of how it makes me feel. But here's ultimately what I told him. I have many regrets. I've made many mistakes. Sometimes I read the Bible now and I'm like, oops, did that. And I worry sometimes that, man, am I going to be accepted? But anyway, I wind up telling him this. I have enough deep regrets, deep, dark regrets that I believe I will share with you as our relationships evolves over time. And as you grow a little bit older, out of respect for your maturity level emotionally, I want to make sure that when I say certain things to you and reveal certain things to you, you can process it for what it is and you can understand it. Because he's only 11. But what I said to him is this. What I've learned is that I no longer want to have obvious regrets. And the most obvious regrets for me is this. No longer doing what I said I would do. No longer chasing what I said I would chase. No longer stopping or starting and stopping. Because then I don't become who I could be, which, and I've said this many times again over and over in recent videos. I am a father. And if I don't chase who I could be, then my regret's going to be that I couldn't be the most fulfilling father for you and your sister, the most fulfilling husband, because your mother deserves that. And then scale that out. I don't want to go into work not feeling fulfilled and happy. If I just work this job for the rest of my life, what does that look like? It doesn't have to be a negative. It doesn't have to be unfulfilling. I can choose. So my biggest regret is that I don't choose to ensure that whatever it is that's in front of me, I don't allow it to enslave me. I don't allow it to minimize me. I don't allow it to be an insecurity that restricts me. That I can see a light because I've been in the dark. And this is exactly how, and I'm paraphrasing some of it, but I was explaining it to it in this depth because I think at the minimum, if you're a parent, explain to your children, man. Explain it. They got to hear it. And the earlier the possible. Why? Because they're being programmed too. And I think I'll close here. If you really want to change, man, if you really want to change, there's nothing stopping you but you. It is the single most difficult thing you're ever going to do. There are so many things we'll talk about as far as what you can apply structurally, concept-wise, certain disciplines, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, things that you can possibly adopt and align with. But at its core, what do you do today? And if you just did that every day for the rest of your life, how would you feel? And if God gave you a sign that it could be bigger and better, not materially, but in here, that you could no longer be enslaved, what is it that you haven't seen, that you need to see, that you don't know, that you need to know, that whatever you seek is absolutely possible? But it has to start and end with you. That's all. Start. Don't stop. Go through the evolution of you. Everything is simply a creation. Everything around you is a creation. And creation never ceases. There's always a possibility for it to expand, grow, and materialize. You just got to change your addiction. Become addicted to the you that makes you feel as good about being you as possible. That's all. Start, don't stop, see what happens. Change your mind, change your life. I am who I say I am. Blessings and stay rich.